All right, guys, Ryan here, and I'm here with Trevor Sanipass from Halifax, Nova Scotia. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. And how are you?
I'm wonderful, man. So one of the things that we're getting together to talk about today, and if you guys recognize Trevor as one of the stars of the APTN show Arm Nation, talk to me about Arm Nation. Like, how did it come to be? What can we expect to see in the future? What's happening with the show?
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked that. Arm Nation, how that came to be was, I have to give props or recognition to my arm wrestling club in Sackville. The great guys and gals. And, Devin Lorette showed up one of their practices, and we were talking about a, an arm wrestling series on HBO at that time called Game of Arms.
Right.
And I recall some of the guys that I was arm wrestling with, we were talking about how great if we can be able to form a team and then, head down in the United States and, maybe be part of the show. Like, we're just thinking like that. Um, and I like to, for myself, I like to make things happen. I just can't sit down and idle and not do anything. Like I have to make things happen. And at that time, I said, "Wow, why don't we just create our own TV show? Like, why don't we just come up with our own series and involve other clubs?" So even before it was called Arm Nation, it was called I named it as True North Strong, and it was clubs versus clubs, much like that show in HBO, but there were some differences though, because we have a club in Sackville, we have a club up in the valley here in Nova Scotia, we have a club in Cape Breton. So I was like thinking forming a team out of these clubs from different areas, and then maybe challenging them from say Prince Edward Island and challenging another province in New Brunswick, and then have like a three teams face off, and then the winner. That was like kind of like season one, and then the winner, was of these provinces would face other provinces, say like much like your province of Manitoba or
Mhm.
Alberta. Anyway, that was my idea. I put it together. I went home. Like I said, I just can't sit back. I went home. I put it together, and then I sent it off. Uh, I was on a TV show before because of my son. We were on YTV. So I got to meet some of the directors and producers. So I sent it off to one of the people there. I honestly didn't expect a call back that quick. And this person in particular really liked it, but he had another project at that time. So he said, "Trevor, like, we like this. This is great. If you want to wait like 6 to 8 months, like, we could work on this then. Or we have a person, I have a friend, that's what he told me, has a friend named David. He's from Montreal. He specializes in documentaries. He may be your guy." And so, well, like, I appreciate the phone call. Didn't expect any to begin with, and said, "Why not?" If it says no, then of course I'll wait 6 to 8 months and we'll work on this. Anyway, long story short, David Finch, which is part of Picture This Productions, phoned me many emails and phone calls later. Um, you know, Arm Nation came to be. So of course they had to change the name, to change the script. It didn't go from how I wanted it. Um, but they approached several broadcasters, and several of them did like it and did wanted it. But APTN um, noted that they want like multi seasons. So it went from an hour and a half documentary into a series now, which is good because we were thinking of season one, season two, season three. Oh, that's four actually. Season three. um, and it didn't go that way. It didn't go like, I mean, unfortunately, um, working on season one, I got to meet a lot of the arm wrestlers, and with APTN, they wanted indigenous arm wrestlers, and my thing was, okay, we do have arm wrestlers that are indigenous and they're strong, they're great, but I really want to include non-indigenous arm wrestlers as well. So in my episode in particular, in that series, Arm Nation, I'm on episode 8. And I have a good friend of mine, Mark McPhail. So Mark, he was in the show. So like I felt like, okay, we got to include some of the non-Indigenous arm wrestlers that really helped me and my community, especially with Mark, how he helped with us, like with our youth. And of course, I mentioned other arm wrestlers from my club. We have Rick Pickney, who was in the show as well. Rick Pickney, Chris Scott, and Perry Broom. So these are some of the names that I forwarded. And then of course Devin Laratt was helping out with the series as well. So he provided a lot of input and information to the team of Arm Nation. But it was all excuse me. It was all because arm wrestling right now, as you know, Ryan. Well, you're a very popular guy. And,
yeah, well, maybe I don't know.
World champion, come on. Like I wanted to include as many people as I can, and it was good to have like you and what the States is doing with WAL. Again, it was growing, right? Like the sport is growing, it's exploding. Actually, I know how big it is in in Europe and especially here in North America. And they knew that, and they really want to make this show happen, and they did. So I was lucky enough to be part of this team working on and off the screen, but it was all came from the idea of doing this for the show. Excuse me. Sure.
Are you getting in trouble?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, I got to be a small part of the show, so I was pretty happy about that. They showed up at my tournament that I ran here in Portage La Prairie, and of course the focus was on Brittany Sutherland and Derek Spence. So I got my little piece of that show too here out here, and it was an awesome show. I mean, we tuned in every week to watch. So what does the future hold for the show?
Those two individuals are fantastic.
Yeah.
And Brittany and even her husband Corey, and their children. I like what they're doing in your province, and I certainly when I was putting this together, they asked me if there's any particular people that we should contact. I mentioned them right away. They even knew even before this show came together. I knew I was in the talks with the team, and I said, well, I'm going to the Nationals, and I'm going to be speaking with some of the arm wrestlers, and I did approach them. I did, and Brittany and her husband being one of them, and Derek, I haven't really got to meet, but I've heard so much about him. So seeing the show, it was good to to see it come out. It was fantastic. Even our episode and the Burgoyne brothers and and oh my God, like the other arm wrestlers I got to meet, they're so inspiring. So I love how the show came about. So even though I just mentioned that we were thinking about, APTN was interested in doing multi-seasons, we did work on season 1. And for those that don't know, Arm Nation's a 13-half-hour documentary series following a handful of arm wrestlers across the country. We were hoping to do season 2 after the Nationals, because at that time I did place second, or I received silver in my division at the Nationals. So that qualified me to the Worlds. And we were thinking, okay, great, this is where we're going to end off at the Nationals. And then we were hoping to, okay, once we go to the Worlds, which was in Budapest, and then we come back and then kind of start over as we do each year. We have the provincials and then the Nationals and then the Worlds, other than the local tournaments. Unfortunately, APTN, I don't know about the viewers. I received a lot of emails, messages that everybody was enjoying the show. It was doing great, much like yourself. You're watching it weekly. Mm-hmm. There were many others as well across the nation. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened. But I do know that APTN is no longer pursuing with season 2. That's where Arm Nation is right now, is just left off. But it's like I just can't like leave it like that though. Like I know there's many others that are saying, okay, like what happened? Like what's going on now? Like they really want to know, like Evan, like what's going on with Evan now. And Oh God, like Brendan, like oh my God, Brendan, oh Brendan, you're a beast. And like they're like he's like Brendan in a way, like he's really doing well in arm wrestling. But anyway, there's a lot of people reaching out to me right now and asking, okay, we did enjoy season 1, and like when is season 2 coming? And it breaks my heart knowing now, just recently, there's not going to be season 2. And when I do say that, like there's no season 2, and they were like, okay, you just cannot leave us like that. Like we do, like we want to know, like what's the happen? Like Vern, for instance, Vern, like my God, like hands, like he's my hero. They want to know, like his journey, like what's he doing now. So I'm kind of sharing these messages, like on here or social media, or just messages via text, but. I love to write. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. I'm a busy guy myself. I go around the Atlantic provinces doing cultural presentations, doing arm wrestling demonstrations and seminars. I have several books on the go right now. They're going to be published. Arm wrestling is such a big part of me. And, I have a great support, my family, friends, the arm wrestling community. I have my full-time work. My work is being like they're supportive, and of course my First Nations community is here in Atlantic Canada, and it's good to have that support. And I do give back to my, not just my community, but to other communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. And to answer that, like, it was a long answer. I'm hoping to work on something like something else. I have many ideas. I do have other friends now that are in the film industry. I was approached by a couple. I just need to put something together, and maybe it may not be Arm Nation, but it'll definitely be something else involving, of course, arm wrestling. Hopefully, you'll be the star.
Oh, I hope so. It would be good. It's good to know that
Yeah.
there's still some stuff going on, and it is a shame to see that the season 2 is not going to come to fruition. But
Yeah.
there's always something else out there, and the sport of arm wrestling is growing so much. And now that the World Arm Wrestling League is starting to be shown in Canada more frequently on the Fight Network, I think that the sport is going to keep growing, and hopefully some channel somewhere in Canada picks up something to do with arm wrestling and some original Canadian content.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And even with Arm Nation, it was just I just found out that you can watch these episodes not just only on APTN, but on Prime as well, Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I wasn't aware of it, but you could watch episodes on that, and it is growing. I love how WAL is doing it. No, come on, Ryan, you're a definite star. I remember my first nationals, and it was Timmins, Ontario.
Holy cow! I was 242 pounds at that tournament.
Oh my God, yeah. I was bigger than you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But like I remember meeting you, but I've heard about you though. Like that's the thing. Like I like when I saw you, it was like I respect the sport. I respect everyone that puts their time, the volunteers, the referees. It takes a lot, and I try to do what I can, and even my own area here. Like unfortunately, with my busy schedule, and I'm taking university courses right now. We practice on Tuesday evenings, I can't do Tuesday evenings in my practice.
Right.
I work full time, like Monday to Friday, and on my weekends I usually doing something else. Not weekends, but in the evenings. So right now, in the community here in Nova Scotia, I'm working with their community members, their youth, the adults, male and female, in arm wrestling. So they got me there for the whole month of November, and even before November, I was going around and doing talks and giving back to the community. But even the weekends is busy. So anyway, going back to like uh, you know, the volunteers, like you held tournaments. It takes a lot because I'm a coordinator for the Nova Scotia NEMA Summer Games, and it completely consumes me, my time. And I have a team of 5, and that's not including the referee. But it just completely consumes me. It drains me, and so I have to give credit to like many people out there, much like you, Rick Pickney, the volunteers. Like I know, from here anyway, Angela and Rob, they're doing great, and even John Thompson, they're doing the mic. It takes a lot out of you, and you need people to know what they're doing to make the tournaments really successful. So anyway, I just want to say that when I saw you, I was like, wow, there's Ryan. There's Ryan Espey. I got to go. And that, there's a picture I showed you too, about you and I. And of course, I'm not really bigger than you, but you were slimmer then. But it was my first Canadians. It was my first Canadian, even though I've been arm wrestling for over 25 years. But that was my first nationals. That was my first nationals, and we drove up. It was my family and myself. We drove up. I took a week off from work. We stopped along the way, Montreal and Toronto. Went to Canada's Wonderland, and then we ended our trip down in Timmins, and that was intense. Like I think I got 4th at that time, but my nerves were so shot. Even though I've been doing it for a while, but I never did it at this level. And so I was like, wow. And seeing you, I was like, oh my God, because I heard about you, right? And so it was really great to, to see you in the poll and, to certainly meet you. And you were really, genuine and kind, and you were, I was asking questions and taking pictures, and you were like right on. And so you left an impression after that, I'm definitely going to
appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem. So right now, arm wrestling, is big everywhere. But in Nova Scotia during the summer games, it's huge. It's huge. It's one of the popular sports. Easily, I have and these are youth. There's easily about maybe 60 competitors of youth, and there's usually about 60 in adults. So now we have the North American Indigenous Games.
Tell me about that.
Yes. So North American Indigenous Games, it's going to be huge. It's huge. It's not part of the games. I have to make that clear. It's not part of the games yet. It can be, and I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah.
So they are promoting and sponsoring the event. So the NAIG. So what NAIG is, for those that may not know, it is North American Indigenous Games. There's going to be about approximately 5,000 athletes here in Atlantic Canada in July. So that's like in 10 months, maybe 9, maybe 10 months. Anyway, it's next year, and it's going to be held in Halifax. So the exciting part is they are promoting and sponsoring arm wrestling, and it is going to be on during the games. So we have a venue right now. We're still working on. I just met with them today, this morning. We were just talking about the logistics, what it's going to look like, how many days, who's going to be involved. It's exciting. So it is actually happening. So we need everyone though, because NAIG happens every 4 years. It happens every 4 years, and it's almost like the Olympics. It's almost compared to Olympics, but for youth. It's geared for youth. So 4 years ago or 3 years ago, actually, they had in Toronto. they had in Toronto, and it was like, everybody benefited from it. So right now we're excited because we're going to have in Halifax, and we're going to be welcoming communities from across Canada and North America. So and arm wrestling, that was that, like, as everyone who was involved in arm wrestling, we all love and we have a passion for the sport. And I like to make this be part of it. I'm sort of like a promoter myself. I like to share everything about about arm wrestling. I do go around and I train and even coach other young athletes becoming better arm wrestlers. So for Nate, for me, it's like, wow, like this is big. This is going to be big. But I do need all the help that I can. So Rick Pickney and I, which is he is the Canadian and the Nova Scotia president. He and I are doing a presentation at the Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Sports Summit next week. So he and I are doing a presentation. This is more for just showing them, what the sport is about. Now, Rick will be great at answering some of the questions, like how many tournaments that we have in, say, Nova Scotia, or even in other provinces. How big is it at the national level? I know we had our tournaments in Edmonton, but Rick would be a bit better to understand that, because I went as a competitor. Even though I went there as a competitor, I also coached other two youth from Nova Scotia. But it's good that Rick and I are going to be presenting, so they could better understand, what we're going to have in July. So because they are going to, and again, promote and sponsoring it. We really want to make this a success. I really want, to be this really big, because there's a buzz around to it. Like, I have to give credit to you. I have to give credit to other arm wrestlers, much like Devin, like Matt, even Michael Todd. They're like, you guys are doing really great in sports, and then of course, and even in Europe, much like Igor, what he's doing. He's doing really great with the sport. Even with Igor last year, because I love social media myself. Twitter is what I use, and I do have a lot of followers at T Sanipass. Igor even reached out to me last year when they had that top 8, and he asked that if I could share the events. So he was sending me material, and I was like sharing it. So that's how much I at no gain, nothing. I just love to, like I said, promote it. If it's my tournament, your tournament, whoever's, I'm like, okay, go to it, right? And, like up for myself, I spent I'm not here to say like, oh, yeah, I spent money. I spent money to give it to youth so they could travel, to go to these tournaments. There's times where I pay for their registration because I just love the sport, right? I know, and I know there's many people like myself, like you, and many others like Brittany, Derek. There's a lot of great arm wrestlers out there that really want to make this sport grow, and I certainly would like to, have. I'm losing my voice. Many people involved, to make this, a success. So that's Nate.
Interesting. So that's happening in July.
That's happening in July.
Okay. Now we'll see some announcements and some promotional stuff coming out over the next few months, I assume.
Yes.
Excellent.
So we're like, we just met today. We were talking about it like for like since last year, and no, we just officially met this morning, and this is definitely happening. And you're right. You'll see more ideas. There was a lot of ideas thrown today, and I just can't wait to actually, to see the promotion of it. Like, what it's going to look like. Like, we do have an idea what it's going to look like. And so far, it is going to be like a 2-day event. It's going to be like a 2-day event. Youth centered. We're still focusing on the adults, where NAIG is for youth. So we might just stick with the youth. So I don't know. But we will have arm wrestling during when we're having North American Indigenous Games, we will have arm wrestling, but we may even have arm wrestling during the booth, like, where people will be passing by and just want to know more about the sport. So we'll have people to, like, just share, like, their stories, or even like get people to arm wrestle. Of course, like, safety is huge, much like any other sport. We'll have people that would know what they're doing. But, like, like I said, this is just the beginning stages, but we're working hard, and we're definitely going to move right ahead after today.
That sounds great, man. Congratulations on getting that put together.
Oh yeah, thank you. I know, I mentioned that if it wasn't for the support of my family, friends, and I don't think I would have been able to do what I do right now. There's so many ideas that are coming off, like, in my head, and I want to sit down. I want to, like, jot them down and get something going again. I don't know, maybe it'd be Arm Nation with a different name.
Sure.
Like I said, you'll be in it.
Nice. Yeah.
And since I have this airtime with you,
yeah,
I do want to share this shirt that I have. There was some money that I put together, and I was going to do the tournament for the youth, and I was going to put, like, I don't know, it came up like about $600. I was at, like, no registration, no nothing, just weigh yourself, and okay. And I just say, like, you just weigh yourself, and then off you go. The winner, like, only first place winners would get, the money. But what I ended up doing was that would have been just one shot deal. So my wife, she mentioned about, why don't you get T-shirts instead? And once you sell the T-shirts, like, the half of the proceeds would go towards the tournament. So, and the other half, you could buy more T-shirts and then sell them, and then, like, you'll have more tournaments. So, okay, well, great. So came up with a shirt called Ultimate Torque Arm Wrestling. And the front part of it is like this. I have a dog, so it's got dog fur. So but it's Ultimate Torque. I'm probably going to, like, create a website sometime in the new year. I sold about a quarter already, and it just kind of goes back once I get my money back, and then I'm going to buy more T-shirts, and the other half is going to have a tournament. So right now I'm going to put it aside. The new year, I'm going to focus on that again, but I am going to have a tournament for youth only. For them to compete free of charge, and it's a money prize event, right?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, and excited.
Cool. What else do you want to talk about?
Right now, it's like, I'm glad that I was able to share how our nation kind of came about, and unfortunately how it didn't go. I did talk about NAIG, and I talked about this thing. That's pretty much I have left for now. And I really do, like, appreciate everything what you do, and I really do like where this sport is going, and we need more people like yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Are we gonna see you in Winnipeg this year?
I would like to, and right now I'm planning on it. Yes.
Good.
I'm planning on going. I haven't missed one yet. I was in Quebec last year, and I was in Edmonton this year, and then of course the years before that was in Halifax, Saskatchewan, and Calgary. Oh, not Calgary, but Vancouver. And of course Timmins. So I've been going to everyone since 2013, and I'm planning on going to your province next year.
Excellent, because the one in Winnipeg is going to be a huge nationals. It is a pivotal year with all the stuff that's been happening with the World Arm Wrestling Federation and the IFA, which you'll hear me talk more about later. But it's there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to need to decide where we stand as a nation.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
If you need me for anything, I'm like supporting the sport, like however I can.
Yeah. The problem is going to be because this is going to be part of my Wednesday, which is now Thursday, kind of my news show I do every week. The problem is getting the accurate information. So it seemed like we had a clear path in the IFA. But then everyone at WAF had such a great experience and there was so much good news about Olympics and that kind of thing that, maybe IFA, maybe you had to weigh your options now a little bit between WAF and the IFA. And now WAF has made an official a statement, a ruling will say that all of the competitors that go to tournaments that are not WAF sanctioned, if they're branded by URPA or if they are IFA, or the wording is loose enough that they could include PAL, WAL, tournaments like that, WAF will have the ability to ban athletes for competing outside of their organization. So that's kind of the tipping point for me and kind of tipped me back the other way. But interestingly enough, you're going to see Rick Pinkney coming on the Armed Crossfire show on Sunday morning to weigh in on the subject. And I assume, Rick is, of course, pro-IFA. I assume at some point in the near future beyond that, you'll see Joey Costello come on to give his side of the speech for the World Arm Wrestling Federation. And people will have all the information, and we will probably have to be put to a decision before next year's Nationals. So that's not a decision for me to make. It is a decision for the CAWF executive, which I am not currently a part of. So it's an unenviable position, I think. And, it's something people that are on that board need to start thinking and educating themselves about.
They should, yes.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
But we are still unified in Canada. We still have one Nationals, and hopefully it stays that way.
Mm-hmm. I certainly do. And it really, I don't want to say disappointing, but like how this is kind of dividing.
It's 1997 all over again.
I've heard about that too.
Yeah.
I heard about that, and it's unfortunate actually how this happened or how this came about. Really truly is. I mentioned earlier, this sport is growing, it's exploding, and certainly this doesn't really help with that. Everybody wants to see the sport in the Olympics someday, and I try so much to grow this in my communities. I know there's a lot of people out there like yourself, other promoters that are trying to grow it. And, I even had a goal in mind, to have the sport recognized nationally. And I know it was recognized here in Nova Scotia. And I'm sure, I don't know really about other provinces, but it is in Nova Scotia. But luckily for myself, I do know several politicians from different parties at all levels, actually municipal, provincial, and federal. As for federal, I have a friend who's an MP. I reached out to him and said, hey, I got an idea. I need to pick your brain. So he said, what's it about? I told him about, I want this sport recognized nationally. How can we do this? So unannounced or not unannounced, unaware, I guess. There were attempts like this before in the past, so he mentioned that I'm going to send somebody that is more or will be able to help you better. I said, okay, well, great. So in a couple of weeks they'll let you know. So anyway, at that time I started hey, I need to speak with somebody. And I think even at that time I was on Facebook and I was like, hey, I need info. I need something. So there were some good people that were reaching out to me, gave me messages, and And then I got a call from Ottawa, and it was an assistant of somebody from I don't know the like the title itself, but somebody that is in charge of sports. And they said, okay, like, and we're gonna like, sit down with you and make this happen. This was given high priority from your province, from an MP. I was like, wow. So he said, you got some pull. Yeah, I know. And I was like, okay, great. But of course, election was called at that time. This is earlier this year, like around summer. I said, okay. So it's been like, I still yet to, sit down with others and just to say, hey, how can we make this happen? Anyway, not to like, jump, like, I want to go back to here. I really want this sport to grow, and unfortunately, how this has happened, I really don't know. I'm just glad that I'm not in the executive myself. Like,
yeah, they got a tough choice, and as long as we keep pushing forward with certain initiatives like the ones you're working on, the ones I'm working on, the little TV deals, or if another Arm Nation type show comes along, that helps a lot because it generates interest in the sport and the people in the sport. So it tells the stories, and that's what becomes entertaining. That's why people are interested, and that's why people are asking you what's going on with these people we saw on TV.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that of many of those, I mean, BLM, look at where he's going, and his trajectory is straight up. So you take 2 years away from that show, and all of a sudden you go back to him, and he could be a world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's one of the people I made sure to, like, okay, you gotta follow this guy, like, yeah. But I honestly didn't think like, it was like, like so it's good to see. It's definitely good to see that, right? Arm wrestlers that you came to know and to watch, and certainly, hopefully, something, if it's by me or somebody else, it's great to see it on TV. My mother-in-law, I recall we were watching Arm Nation at her apartment. We bought the popcorn. It wasn't even my episode. Like, we made it like a big event, and I forgot who she was cheering for. She was screaming like, and she was actually, I think it was Evan cheering for Evan. No. I know. Evan. but I think it was. But anyway, she was cheering on for this Evan and Frank Munions. That's who she was. That's who she was screaming for. Like, go Frank! Like, I mean, it was neat to see that. Like, and here I am, like, watching popcorn, and she only knew arm wrestling from what I say, or coming home with a medal or something. And I talk about, it was a great tournament, it was a great event, it was this and that, but now seeing her, like, watching it, because she never really been to a tournament, but she was watching from the show, and she was so into it. Like, so it was good to see that. Yeah. I got a question for you. I got a question for you.
You got a question for me?
Yes. It's just
fire away. Movember. It's Movember.
I thought so. Okay, looks good.
Oh man.
No. I knew it was for November. But yeah, no. That's great. You totally rock, Brian. Like, you really do. Well, and I guess Allen, thank you. For giving me the time, I guess, to to talk to you, and here in the lobby, I'm gonna head back into my conference now.
Go back in your conference. I'm going to post this video and make sure everybody shares it all over the place. Let's spread the word.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
See, okay, all right. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
All right, later.
Later.